Hey, everybody, Happy New Year, and welcome to this week's Star Report for January 4th through the 11th, which is this Wednesday through next Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when I stop talking or if I want to overlap weeks. So let's just jump right in. The sun has been active for the beginning of the year of 2023. We just, over the past couple of days and into today, are being hit by or receiving the coronal hole stream plasma, which is, like we said, a contracting energy, a squishing energy, a compression. So you might feel a little bit weighted down, a little bit moving slow yesterday and today, maybe even into tomorrow. Also, the sun has picked up in the last week on its coronal mass ejections and solar flaring. Most of those, if not all of those coronal mass ejections, have been pointed away from Earth, except perhaps a minor one that hit yesterday, which in conjunction with the coronal hole stream should cause a little bit of minor solar storms, which would be just electromagnetic disturbances in the atmosphere. Minor satellite stuff, definitely just a little bit of confusion for those of us who are here on the surface. The solar activity should be picking up over the next several months. Once again, it goes on a 5-month peak and valley thing, and so those valleys are going to be less low because we're moving towards solar maximum. Solar maximum is just a cycle in the sun, which is usually good for the Earth. What happens is the sun pumps the Earth's protective barrier full of energy, and therefore it becomes nice and full or charged up like a battery. And so when we hit solar maximum, usually is really good energy for the planet. And you heard me insert the usually really good energy for the planet. Now, it can be really good energy for the planet with that uptick, strengthening a little bit of the weakening Earth protective field, but we still have the polar shifts, which is the north and south polar shifting on the surface of the planet to a different location, and that sort of leaves the magnetic barrier lower. And so this more intense sun area is going to be likely to cause intensified by the human brain, by the human consciousness, to its increased activity. And so that usually just sort of goes into brain fog, a little bit of heart palpitations. Your body is basically an electrical unit, a battery of prana, of spiritual energy, which moves up and down the spine and is governed or filtered by your mind. So just sort of pay attention to the sun. Sometimes that might be, you might have to lower the duration of time that you're out in the sun if the intensity is coming through more vibrantly. So sunburns, stuff like that might increase. Just sort of pay attention to that over the next couple of months, definitely into February, March. And then in the next 2 to 3 years, that's going to be an issue. So then we had last night and into today, we have the peak moving into the astrological report part. We had the quadrantids, I think is how you say it, meteorite shower peaking last night into today. And so you look up and see that. When we have that, that just really sort of gives us a kick up in dreams and or an interruption in sleep with these sort of messages from beyond coming to the surface of the planet, or at least through the atmosphere, which we're all connected to through this electromagnetic grounding that we have by being on the Earth's surface. Today, also Wednesday, the Venus and Jupiter begin to align and start to cause you to really have to govern or inform the way that you're looking and what you're creating for yourself with love, right? So it's this energy of love. Remember from last week, we said that we are coming into the full moon, which is at the end of this week, in Cancer. And so Venus and Jupiter is really this last sort of big push to push us into that. How are we going to create, hopefully with love? Love is a manifesting energy when we do things out of love for others, out of love for ourselves, especially, which is what this year is going to be about self-love. And that energy, with combined with Jupiter, starts to give us what we're working on faster and pushes us to choose the higher pathway. And not necessarily we know what a higher pathway looks like, but it keeps us from choosing the lower pathway. And the lower pathway would not necessarily be that you could choose wrongly, but that you could settle and not choose at all. And so that's something to sort of pay attention to with the Venus and Jupiter energy today, which moves us into tomorrow when your Uranus starts to activate with the sun, and that really starts to kick into gear the activation of the solar plexus chakra. So solar plexus is going to be right below the center of the chest, usually when the sternum, which is the sort of bony part in the center of the chest. About an inch or two below that is where your solar plexus is. It's also got a nerve cluster there. But the solar plexus chakra is your inner sun, which is why it's called the solar plexus, the nexus of the solar energy inside of you. And so this is going to begin a 4-year process of awakening your solar plexus chakra to a new level. And so that is a 4-year process culminating in probably 2027 with what would be expected to be a new sun, a new light within you. So it's going to sort of be like an oil lamp where we're increasing the vibrancy, the light, the amount of oil that it's fed in, or the amount of wick that it has. So it's becoming brighter and brighter over the next 4 years, which is going to sort of track with the solar increase. We just mentioned that we're moving into solar maximum. And so right at solar maximum, we're going to be at solar maximum for ourselves. And some people in the metaphysical world say that that's a transition period for humanity where we start to come into our new light-bearing years. Take that for what you will. I have a number of opinions about that, but that's long for this report. And so your Uranus is really going to help you sort of with that lighting of the solar plexus. It's going to help you detach your self-image from things and people that don't matter. So if you're gauging who you are based on followers, fans, family members, people that might pay your bills, people that might be in your sort of sphere have been limiting you in these last couple of years, this is really this energy here on Thursday to sort of break free from that and really just choose your highest good, that in love, right? Don't be angry or dismissive of people, but also don't be bound by them. Using that Venus and Jupiter energy with this Uranus energy to sort of just detach from things that no longer sort of serve you, and do that with love, and then do that with ease, right? So you are supposed to be, I'll say selfish, but even in the West, Christianity, everybody knows, maybe everybody doesn't know, everybody remembers or could look up on my information that I used to be a Lutheran pastor, that the tenet was to love your neighbor as yourself. You can't love your neighbor until you love yourself. And so this year of focusing on yourself with love and choosing yourself because you love yourself is the energy that we're really working for on this Thursday, which moves us into Friday, which, the full moon comes in about, 48 hours. So Friday and Saturday is going to be the full moon. Friday, you're going to be a little bit like I am right now. Sometimes I precede the energy of the planet. You get a little bit of brain fog. And so you're going to just sort of feel overwhelmed. It's almost like when you start your car up and it sort of revs up. Friday, it's going to be this sort of scatterbrain till the idle of the car, the idle of the engine, the idle of your soul starts to sort of ease into this. I do love myself. I will choose myself. This is going to be a great year kind of energy, and sort of, okay, now you're ready to put the car in drive. That's really going to be that sort of waiting period on Friday. And then we go into Saturday when it's this full moon in Cancer. And so the full moon in Cancer, like I said, we're going to be bookended in the year 2023 by beginning the year's full moon in Cancer and ending the year's full moon in Cancer. And so Cancer is really about self-care, the astrological sign. And so when you sort of do that, you should sort of pay attention to what part of self-care is that going to be for you this year, or what would be a good focus. One of the things I told you last week that I'll remind you of this week, if you go in on any of astrological chart where you can put in your birth date and stuff like that, and find your chart, there is what they call houses of the zodiac. And so you figure out where your Cancer sign, or where the Cancer sign was at your birth, and then what house that is in is what you need to focus on for this year, or what would be beneficial. You don't have to. What would be beneficial if you focused on this year to work on that self-love, that expansion. And then just sort of pay attention that this energy that starts at the beginning of the year is an evolution. So this lighting of the solar plexus, where you have more control, where you have more effort, where you have more desire, more drive through the solar plexus from the inside, that it might be easier to sort of choose these things. So combined with your body being a better instrument to bring in that spirit, you're also going to be bookended by deciding which house Cancer is in, about which part of that self spirit you're working on. So pay attention to that for 2023. Woo! And that just sort of leads us, that would be sort of Friday and Saturday that the moon is full. So you can go out and look at that. Sometimes full moon ceremonies are great. Take your crystals out there, get them cleansed. Sometimes you can even do moon water if that's something that you want to work with. And then if you do like a bonfire, you could always sort of make a newness of it. Sometimes you want to do it the full moon, sometimes you want to do it the new moon, but nonetheless, those ashes become a ceremonial thing, and you can save those and sort of work with those, or maybe build the fire at the same time at the full moon and at the new moon, which leads us into Sunday, which this Sunday, the moon will sort of be farthest away. So the moon is on an elliptical orbit around the earth, and so it gets farther and closer away. And so it usually has a peak furthest and peak closest. It'll be the furthest away from the planet on Sunday. And so that just sort of really means that you'll be furthest away from your intuition and more acting on instinct. So even though the moon is full, it being at a distance, it's going to have more of an instinctual understanding than it is an intuition understanding. So that activation of your solar plexus on Thursday and is going to give you that energy to sort of move through instinct, and rather than having to think about things and debate things or contemplate things. So pay attention to that. Then it moves us into Monday, which Monday is halfway through Mercury retrograde, which we are in. We're also in Uranus and Mars retrograde. Mars is about to end, as well as Uranus, by the end of the month. But that Mercury retrograde, remember, is about communication. And so we'll be at this full moon in Mercury retrograde, where we're lighting up our instinct. And so we'll be tempted to go ahead and work on those. We'll be tempted to get into contracts and negotiations and try to act on these things that we're being pushed to metaphysically in our body. But Mercury retrograde will make that sometimes difficult. So pay attention to the frustration level of, and I've seen this all over the internet, of technology giving up on you, emails not working, videos not working. Watch out for contracts that you sign. Be prepared to make a contract. Be thinking about what kind of contracts you want to make, but kind of wait till those are over. When Mercury retrograde is over, which should be about a week and a half from Monday. And post shadow, if you're really that concerned, you might want to wait till the end of January to do any kind of decisions like that, or at least contracts that are going to be binding for the entire year. And then that's just going to lead us to the end of the week, which looks like next week we're going to be talking about Mars going direct instead of being in retrograde, which it currently is. And so pay attention to Mars, the red planet in the sky. Till next time, many blessings.